You are listening to Framing the Future podcast, presented by the Architectural Authority magazine.
I think that the most important thing is to not get too attached to your design and realize that this criticism isn't of you, but rather of your design. And that although for us we may like it, people do have other perspectives. So we should take that advice and try other things rather than just sticking to what we like.
This episode is sponsored by our partners at Sitco USA, with the largest selection of marble in all South Florida. Visit Sitco's showroom at Doral and enjoy their extraordinary design collections, including iconic works by renowned artists such as Zaha Hadid, Anish Kapoor, Ferruccio Laviani, Ora Ito, and many more. Framing the Future podcast dives deep into the heart of architecture education and the journeys of those driving the field. We bring you authentic, personal stories from students, graduates, and educators. Let's explore their motivations, learn from their challenges, and celebrate their triumphs. This is your space to connect, learn, and be inspired. Thank you for joining us, and let's get started.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Framing the Future podcast. I'm your host, Ana Paula Leal, and I have a very special guest with me. She's in her third year of her Master's in Architecture at Florida International University, and she's going to share with us not only her passion for architecture, but also she's an amazing artist and talented designer. Please welcome Sabrina. Hello, how are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
So can you tell us a little more about yourself and what inspired you to study architecture?
Yes, so from a young age, I always enjoyed art and anything that had to do with building, with creativity. So when I got older, when I got into middle and high school, I realized that I would like to use that talent and that passion of mine for design, for creativity, to change the world around me, and I thought architecture would be perfect to do that.
Nice. And you shared with me earlier that you like drawing and you also have that artistic side with you. Since when do you do art?
Since I was little, I always enjoyed drawing, painting, and as I went into high school, I entered an art program in my high school where I was able to specialize more in these subjects.
And how's art influenced your designs in these 3 years of architecture?
So what art gave me was that creative way of thinking and that love for coming up with ideas for creative solutions to problems.
Nice. And in these 3 years of architecture, what has been one of the most challenging experiences that you have and also rewarding ones?
Definitely the long hours, being able to manage my time and be able to complete all the requirements with a limited time frame that we are given. But as I've gone on, I've learned how to manage my time better and be able to complete everything.
And I know that in the first years you take up to how many classes?
Like five
classes. And how do you manage time and also part of your social life? How do you balance that relationship between school and life?
So I've learned to focus on taking on everything rather than focusing on little details. And this has helped me to be able to develop everything and then be able to go in and fix these more less important things that I can include in my design. So this has allowed me to, as I go and my design develops, be able to spend more time with friends and be able to focus on myself as well, on my health.
Yes, perfect. And do you have any friend, or how's your relationship in the studio? I know that FIU has a shared studio which can be sometimes very loud but fun. So how's been your relationship with your peers and also professors?
I do almost all of my work in the studio, and I find that being with peers definitely helps motivate me as well. And when you talk to other people about your designs and you're able to vocalize them, you also get ideas and you're able to see how other people think about your design, getting another perspective. So I think that definitely does help with developing art designs, yes.
Yes. And what's your favorite project so far that you have done?
So far, my favorite has been in extension to the bakehouse in Wynwood, in which we had to design a gallery, a bookshop, a cafe, and some artist studios.
Nice. And how will you describe that process, the thinking process from conceptual design to finally get to something, like concrete, develop a strong concept as well? I know that sometimes it's very difficult to come up with a design concept. So how is your design thinking?
So I usually start by drawing things physically, about thinking about those problems and coming up with some solutions creatively. And then as I go on, I start to apply these to programs like using AutoCAD to develop the design more, and then being able to fix those specificities of those design problems as I move on.
And how do you stay motivated and inspired during your designs and during your life?
I think definitely my passion for design and for changing the world around me definitely motivates me into creating these designs, just thinking about what I could do in the future, how much more I could learn while creating.
And what exactly would you like to change about the world around you?
I think as we move forward, we need to keep thinking about how to keep making designs more human, think about our connections as people to these buildings that we inhabit, that we interact with. And as technology advances, I think that it's more and more important to do this.
And in Miami, so Miami is a growing city. And how do you see architecture in Miami? What would you like to change about also this city that we live in? What do you think we need, is important to focus on?
Right now, with the whole topic of rising sea levels and that type of thing, I think it's important to look at that, to look at environmental aspects of the design as we move into the future, because we need to think about how structures will withstand all of that rather than how they look now.
And about transportation in Miami, I'm a really advocate for a better transportation. That is something that we lack here.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever, in your design process or any project, have you ever touched that in your designs, or think about how improving Miami transportation?
I haven't really worked with that, but I definitely do think it's important in regards to architecture and how we communicate with it, interact with it, to be able to have good transportation, especially in a city with so many people
and cars. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. And what would you say is your favorite architectural programs to use?
Recently, in my second year, I learned how to use Rhino, and I've liked the being able to make those 3D models in the program, add materials. So I've enjoyed the rendering.
Nice. I love Rhino too. Rhino and V-Ray, those two for rendering and 3D modeling. And how do you see architecture in the future with all these technology? Constantly, the artificial intelligence coming up. So how do you see that progress? Are we going more extinct in a way, or do you think we have to? We need to also keep some traditional practices in.
So I think that with artificial intelligence, it in the future will definitely aid more in architecture, but I still think that we need that human creativity to keep the humanity in architecture because we're designing for people, and who could better do that than human themselves?
Nice. I completely agree with you. And what are your goals once? I know you still have like 2 more years to go, but what is your goal once you graduate from architecture?
My first thing would be to work towards my license, and I would like to go more into the commercial aspect of architecture.
And what do you like about commercial architecture?
I like the freedom that comes more with it. There's more different areas that you can work on rather than sticking to just residential. Although I would like to
To
experience
explore more
different types of architecture.
what inspired you to like commercial architecture specifically?
I think that just looking around in Miami and seeing so much variety of buildings kind of like has made me want to do that rather than just sticking to.
One specific type of building. Yeah. Okay. And when it comes to the license, have you thought about getting into any program? Since I know FIU has a special, I don't remember the name, but are you thinking also that at the same time that you're at school, getting into any of those programs to facilitate that license process faster?
I am interested in looking at internships and being able to work to get that real life experience so that I can work towards my license as I study.
So you're very open to, I think it's important to as you are at school, still get that experience in the real field that will give you a lot of knowledge. And do you have any favorite book, any favorite architect that you are inspired from?
I studied a lot of Le Corbusier with a class I took at FIU, and I think it's important to look at architects like those that have made a change in the architecture world and that have set precedents to modern architecture that we see today. So I definitely do enjoy studying architects like Le Corbusier.
Nice. Also in mine, here in Miami, I like a lot Zaha Hadid, the 1000 Museum. I really like it. And I love Calatrava too. And from Le Corbusier, do you have any building or that you like?
Yes, I did a project on the Maison Gurichet, which is in Argentina, and I like the whole concept of going outside of what he usually worked with, and also making a building that was functional for a doctor, for someone to be able to inhabit and work in. So I definitely really like that building.
Nice. And what would be 3 advices that you would give to people that are still in high school or they are not sure if they want to study architecture, or the ones that are just starting? Will be.
I think that one of the most important things is to be able to learn how to take criticism, to not take that personally, and understand that people have other perspectives on your designs. It's also important to be able to learn how to manage your time and realize that sometimes we get caught up in the details, but it's important to be able to look at everything from a larger scale and then take on that project so that we also focus on ourselves and not just on our work. And as we move on, I also think that it's important to look at other people's perspectives, get outside help, even if it's from not only just professors, but also from your friends, from anyone who's willing to look at your project and give you any advice.
And when it comes to criticisms and when we had to do a lot of presentations to our professors, midterms, finals, how have you taken criticism? Is there any, have you had any experience where, sometimes we spend so much time doing a design and so much effort and the professor says, change it for the fifth time, or I don't know, that I don't like this. So how in that moment you can like say, okay, like you say, let's not take it personal, but at the same time, how do you approach the next, what do you do the next step?
I think that the most important thing is to not get too attached to your design and realize that this criticism isn't of you, but rather of your design. And that although for us, we may like it, people do have other perspectives. So we should take that advice and try other things rather than just sticking to what we like.
So, Sabrina, have you had any project that has been like eye-opening, where has changed the way you see design, architecture, and that has teach you something for future designs?
Last semester, from the beginning, there was more of a focus on looking at the construction of the building. So this definitely did change how I was looking at design, because now I got more of a realistic look at what architecture is and taking into consideration more of the materials and how these walls are constructed. So that definitely did shift my perspective.
Yeah, that was like un cubo de agua fría in Spanish. Like, okay, it's not all, like all creative and design, but a building has a lot more than what we, like go through the school. It's like a team. And have you had any team experience at school?
Yes, we have.
And how was it?
I think it's important to work with other people, because like this, you can see how others think, and this can help us create these projects that if maybe we did alone, we wouldn't learn as much.
And about the building of architecture at FIU, it's a really nice building. What do you like the most about it?
I really like the whole concept of the courtyard because it feels very open. So when I spend many hours in the studio, I feel like I'm able to go outside, walk around. Last semester, while we were finishing our project, we worked on the terrace. So I don't feel like I'm trapped in a building.
Yes, I think that's important. The sun comes and sometimes it rains, and it's really, really nice. Have you ever used the workshop? I think it's in the extension, a little bit far from the school. Have you ever used it?
Yeah.
Do you enjoy making models?
Yes, I think that's one of my favorite
Your
parts.
favorite parts. So how do you approach the making model process?
So with some designs as they're being developed, I do like to simultaneously come up with my design while working on the model, because this helps me see what works and what doesn't. So I think it does help for me to visualize things in a physical way rather than just in a two-dimensional
way. I really enjoy doing that, like small models, like kind of like the ones that are side plans where you have to put your little molder. I really enjoy those. I was like, I enjoy also the making the bigger models, but it took me so much time. Do you have a 3D printer also at your?
Yes, I've used a 3D printer.
And how helpful has been a 3D printer for you?
I've only used it a few times to get the gist of how it works, but I do think it can be helpful, especially when you don't have that much time to be able to visualize your design in a 3D way, to be able to not just have it on a computer, but be able to touch it.
To touch it and see it in a three-dimensional way. Have you gone to Embus? I think Embus has a lot of 3D printers. Do you go there or do you have your own at home?
I've used one in the architecture building.
In the school,
yes.
So, Sabrina, how's your family help you and support you during all these 3 years?
My family has been very supportive, and I think that's very important because I do spend a lot of late night in the studios. So getting this help, having them, for example, take lunch for me when I'm there for hours and pick me up when I haven't slept, all of that definitely helps. And, any offering of help that I may need in anything of any part of the design process while making my project, all of that is very important because I feel like I'm not doing it alone.
Yeah, that you have a support that's nice. That reminds me, my family too, they were very supportive, and they will, like sometimes give me cafecito, bring me cafecito or make me lunch. Yes. And so what do you do in your free time? What you like to do to inspire yourself, or like hobbies? Let's talk more about art, or if you have any other thing that you like to do.
Yes, in my free time, I do enjoy drawing, whether it's sketching or making a painting. And I do feel like this gives me some more freedom. So I'm able to step out of that, having to do something specific, to enjoying creativity however I want. So I do like to stop sometimes and sketch or embroider or whatever it is. And I also find it important as an output of energy, to also go to the gym, do exercise, to be able to relax while I'm in those long hours in the studio.
Yeah, it's very important to create a balance between the mind and the body. Practice yoga, like you say, relax, go to the beach. Yeah, those type of inspirations are good. Do you like to travel?
I haven't been traveling.
Well, at FIU, you're gonna have a lot of travels. Like when I miss a good part of traveling because I think from design 6 to design 10, I got the pandemic, so I was at home every day. And after that, we went out of the pandemic. They start doing these trips to Italy, to Japan. I was like, oh. Yes, I wish. But yeah, next semester, so you're going to start now design 5.
Yes.
And then design 6, I think you're going to go to Savannah. That's a really beautiful city. I was in love. It's like going to Europe, more or less. And what has been your favorite semester so far?
I think that last semester, I was able to enjoy it more because I was able to find that balance that I needed before, that I was lacking the time management. So I was able to do my project, but also not get too overwhelmed.
So you have a very technical class. That's structure 1. So how's been your experience with the structure?
So I think it was definitely a shift from what we were doing before, but I enjoyed being able to see what works in a building, what doesn't, and understand more of that part of the physics behind a building rather than just what we see on the outside. And we were assigned a project where we had to create a structure out of bricks, a tower, and this had to hold its own weight. So we were also able to learn from that and see the different elements that keep a structure up and make it hold more weight and make it stronger in general.
What's your favorite part of structure class? When they assign you a project and you have to do the calculation. So what's your favorite? It's all mathematics. It's a lot of mathematics, but do you enjoy it? Do you like it?
Yes.
And what do you like the most about doing?
So for me, the best part of that class was definitely coming up with the design for that project and having to take into consideration not the aesthetics of it, but what would hold it up and what would be better, for instance, using more triangles so that it would be more stable, things like that.
Have you applied any of that knowledge into one of your designs?
In In regards to what we did last semester, it was more of the construction part that we had to use for our designs. So that was more what I was able to apply to my recent designs.
Good. I remember that was like, it was my favorite class too. One of my favorite class. I like math, but I also, I was like, oh my God, sometimes, like the calculations and everything, it was really tense sometimes. But I think I really enjoy structural class and also doing the models. I think in structure 3 or 2, you're keeping, you have to do also more like models, and I think I did one on, I think it was like spaghetti. I don't know. I did the structure and the columns and everything. It was really fun, yes. So yeah, that was a really nice experience. So Sabrina, how do you manage tight deadlines and projects simultaneously?
So I like to plan ahead, and I usually create time slots to dedicate to each thing to be able to keep that balance and get everything done. So usually when it's something like that coming up, I spend from the morning until night, and I dedicate time to each aspect that I need to work on.
Nice. And have you had any like challenging time where you haven't been able to finish something, or time is running out? How have you managed to finish, like everything in that organized way?
I think that definitely during fall semester, last fall, it was the most difficult for me because we had our studio project and then also materials and method project that we had to finish at the same time. And for my studio final, I wasn't able to have all the drawings as detailed as I wanted them, but I focused on having them all completed, just not as well as I would have had them done if I had had more time. And the models also, I worked on them as I the drawings so that I would also have all my models done. But it definitely was difficult to balance that out while also having to dedicate some time to finishing my materials and methods project at the same time.
Do you think that achieving perfection in architectural school or with your projects is the ideal thing? And yeah, for those people that they just want everything to be so perfect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've always been a perfectionist, so this has been difficult for me, but I have found that when trying to achieve this perfection, it can lead you to fall behind and not get stuff done. So it's important to kind of realize that it's not going to be able to be perfect. And once you have the more important things done, then you can focus on those details and trying to make it as perfect as you can. But perfectionism can definitely make people fall behind in architecture.
Yes, that's something that with time I learned, like it's better to sometimes, focus on achieving, for example, the drawings, having the drawings, good, and then the model, so balance things around so you can have, not like we say, like everything perfect, but good for the presentation. Mm-hmm. And how's communication skills and presentation skills gone for you through these 3 years?
For me, it definitely, my communication skills definitely have improved because by having to express my ideas to explain my projects, I've been able to learn how to express myself better and also get over that fear of public speaking, of talking about my ideas in front of a group of people. I've been able to manage that better and learn how to make my ideas come across to others.
And what's for you the most important part when you give a presentation?
I think it's important to explain what was required of the project and those main points of the problems that you're solving with your design, your concept, while also leaving some space for questions for whoever's critiquing your project to be able to ask you more about it, but giving them
Give them
the idea.
idea. And do you have any any project where coming with a concept was challenging, was difficult, and which one was also at the same time like easy to develop?
I think definitely at the beginning, like in first year, for me it was difficult starting with nothing and then having to come up with these concepts. So I would say that my projects first year were the most difficult in this aspect. But as I went into third year, I was able to learn how to take more from precedents, how to take more from my previous projects in order to have a starting point for my design and then developing it and maybe not using as much of that later on, but at least being able to start thinking.
Do you have any project where you really like and where you were really, like sure that you had a good concept?
I think in fall of last year when I was able to use a precedent in which I use these copper louvers, I was able to integrate that to make the design come together. So for me, that has been my favorite concept that I've come up with.
Nice. And can you describe more that project?
Yes, so I was given a precedent in which the building had these copper louvers that opened up and kind of went around the building. So I had to design a gallery, a coffee shop, a bookstore, and some artist galleries. And I use these louvers to create opening for light, to bring everything together, creating passageways to connect all of these buildings. And I definitely think that that's what brought all of those different aspects of the design together.
And what was your first semester project? What were the challenges that you faced?
So in my first semester, we were first assigned a painting, which we eventually had to turn into a pavilion for Lincoln Road, into a folly. So I had to learn how to translate this 2D painting into an actual architectural concept. So that was difficult for me, as with my experience with art and drawing, I didn't really have to think about these type of things. So I had to come up with, eventually, I used weaving, which was seen in the brushstrokes of the painting. So I had to learn how to take this weaving into a more three-dimensional way and how to apply it not only in the main aspect of the design, which was where people would gather, but also in getting to the design. So people basically weaving into the design as they walked in, being able to come from different areas and including seating planners that would also extend this concept.
That's nice. I really like that. And how has your art transformed with like this experience that you have as an architecture student? Has architecture give you tools to improve your art, or how do you see art now?
I think that definitely after being in architecture school, it's changed my way of seeing the world around me. So it has become easier to see art anywhere around me. And this has definitely helped with coming up with ideas for artworks and expanding my creativity and learning that I could sketch anything basically that around me. There could be an artwork anywhere.
What's your favorite place to sit down and paint or draw here in Miami?
I definitely enjoy open areas that that you can all see nature interacting with the buildings around them, and I enjoy seeing people interact with these buildings as well. So I think that anywhere that's open that you could see all the elements interacting is a good place to draw.
I think it was in Coconut Grove, a park, and I just spent like hours there, like drawing this tree, and you feel that more connection with nature. And I think we should have more of that here in Miami, like open spaces where people can sit down, relax, and enjoy with their families. And yeah, more in, like the area of Brickell, we don't have that much, it's just like concrete.
Yes.
But it's really nice what they're doing now, the Underline Park, where, like give you accessibility, different activities for kids, for running. They should do that under every highway. That is the thing that we have the most here in Miami.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you, what do you practice any sport? Or, yeah.
But I do enjoy
Going to the gym,
yoga, cycling.
Nice. Yeah, cycling is good too. Last question. What impact do you want to leave in the field of architecture?
I would like to create designs that people can connect to emotionally, in which it's not just a focus on practicality or what looks good from the outside, but going into a building and being able to interact with it, being able to feel something. So focusing on the humanity of the buildings while also being able to incorporate these buildings into its environment to be able to create this connection between people, buildings, and the environment.
Thank you, Sabrina, for being at Framing the Podcast. And thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much for listening to the Framing the Future podcast. Your 5-star reviews really help us continue what we do. Please rate your listening experience, and let's keep building this beautiful community together. For exclusive access to more design content, visit thearchitecturalauthority.com or download our app from the App Store or Google Play. Until next time, stay creative.